After a few weeks break, Season 5 of Career Mode headed over to the Hungarian Grand Prix, and it was a happy return for both of the McLaren drivers as Jenson Button got pole position ahead of today's race, with his teammate Fernando Alonso will line up in P3. Current leader of the Drivers' World Championship, Sergio Perez, qualifies on the front row of the grid alongside Jenson Button, but his teammate Nico Hülkenberg could only manage P8 in qualifying. Lining up in P7 on the grid is the first Red Bull driver of Daniel Ricciardo, but it was a disappointing qualifying session for his teammate Hayden Gullis, as spinning Q1 prevented the reigning world champion from progressing any further. So that is your roundup ahead of today's race. Up next is the Hungarian Grand Prix. What is up, people, and welcome back to part 95 of my F1 2016 career mode. It's season 5, it is round 11, the Hungarian Grand Prix, and once again we are starting right down at the back of the field after a spin in Q1 stopped us from setting any further lap times, and yeah, starting at the back of the field, and it's just going to be a case of trying to have some fun, working our way through the field, and just sort of seeing what sort of position we can get in today's race. It's usually a race for us where we don't tend to do well at anyway, like Japan and Spain. It's a track where we do kind of struggle out on track, so hopefully we can get a decent result here today. If we can get into the points, I'll be very, very happy with that, but unfortunately Sergio Perez is just getting further and further away from us at the moment in this championship. There is Jenson Button, though, our pole man for today's races. We're getting underway for the formation lap for today's race. Sergio Perez lining up in P2, so we'll be hoping that something happens to him here today to allow us to catch up to him in the championship. The points at the moment, the points difference is quite large between the two championship rivals. It's looking like there isn't really a rivalry this season for the championship, as Sergio Perez is literally running away from it. There it is, 191 points for Sergio Perez to our 127. So we are still within a fight with Sergio Perez, but Fernando Alonso is very close behind us as well in the championship, and it's looking like the battle is most likely going to be for second place at the moment, with Daniel Ricciardo also getting involved in that as well. He's got a close little battle with Jenson Button for 4th place right now, but a good result for my teammate could certainly allow him to catch up to us in the championship as well. We just have to wait and see what goes on there. But here we are, just going through the first couple of corners, and we will go through the starting grid for today's race. So Jenson Button is our pole man, with Sergio Perez alongside him in 2nd. Then it's Fernando Alonso in 3rd, with Carlos Sainz in 4th. Felipe Massa lines up 5th on the grid, with Lewis Hamilton starting in P6. My teammate Daniel Ricciardo lines up 7th, with Nico Hülkenberg 8th, Danny Kvyat in 9th, and Esteban Gutierrez rounds out the top 10. Nico Rosberg is the 2nd of the Mercedes drivers, lining up in P11, just missing out on the top 10 in qualifying, with Sebastian Vettel 12th, Rio Haryanto 13th, Jolyon Palmer in 14th, with Romain Grosjean 15th, Felipe Nasr in 16th, Valtteri Bottas 17th, Pascal Wehrlein in 18th, with Felipe Massa 19th, Marcus Ericsson in 20th, and Kimi Räikkönen in 21st, with myself right at the back of the field there in 22nd position. So this is going to be the race strategy for today. We're just going to go for the one-stop strategy, even though you can just see that slight sliver of super soft tyres at the end. We're going to completely discard that, and we're just going to go straight from softs to medium tyres, and hopefully that can take us to the end of the race. I mean, last season, if you do remember that race, we managed to take medium tyres for pretty much the whole race, apart from one lap under the safety car. So I reckon we can certainly make this one-stop strategy work. It depends on whether we can actually get any points out of it. Hopefully we can, but without any further ado, let's get today's race underway. Here we are then on the starting grid for today's race, as the lights are coming on now. What sort of race can we have, as it's 5 red lights, it's lights out, and away we go for the Hungarian Grand Prix. And that's a fantastic start compared to Kimi Räikkönen and Felipe Nasr, putting ourselves right in the middle of those two drivers as we go down in towards turn 1. We're going to take this nice and cautiously, not diving up too many drivers up the inside there, just taking it nice and easy up the inside, getting as many drivers as we possibly can whilst not being that aggressive as we go down in towards turn 2. Now right on the tail of Sebastian Vettel, so we'll be looking to see whether we can get any sort of overtakes on the Ferrari man. So we have a little look around the outside of turn 3, couldn't quite make anything through there. Up to turn 4 now, side by side with Sebastian Vettel, but we get the job done before we get into the corner right behind Rio Haryanto, as all these drivers are going very slowly out of turn 4 through there, and that puts me right side by side with Felipe Nasr, going down in towards this tricky chicane, diving it up the inside, still side by side with the Sauber driver, and there we go, getting through on Felipe Nasr. Esteban Gutierrez is up next as we are already on just outside the points there in P11. So what a fantastic start we have had in today's race. As we're just going through the S's section now, the midway stage of this first lap in the Hungarian Grand Prix. Still trying to do our best to catch up to Esteban Gutierrez as we cut ahead a little bit further here on lap 2 of this Hungarian Grand Prix. Going down in towards turn 4. Once again, there's a yellow flag. There's been a collision down into this corner. Huge collision as Nico Hülkenberg goes spinning. Danny Kvyat out of today's race. Any other drivers out of today's race? Ria Haryanto also having problems. Hopefully we will get a replay of exactly what's happened down in towards turn 4. We didn't actually have a good view of what's happened because we saw 4 drivers off the track at the time we got to that corner, but here's a good replay. So coming down in towards turn 4, lots of drivers going side by side and then trying to go 3 wide into that corner. It's never going to work because it's so tight through there. And it looks like Carlos Sainz was one of those drivers who came off in a bad way. Going down towards turn 4 there. On board with Carlos Sainz, side by side with both Nico Hülkenberg. And I think that's the McLaren of Fernando Alonso. It just didn't work out for Carlos Sainz. Watching on board now with Nico Hülkenberg, who actually had a great run out of turn 3 into turn 4, side by side, and just sort of gets pinned and then spun round and then gets hit by Danny Kvyat. So that was how Danny Kvyat went out of today's race. Going to get a better view of that now as we're going to be watching on board with the young Russian driver going down out on the exit of turn 4, and there's the contact with Nico Hülkenberg, losing him his right rear, and there was actually Ria Haryanto who went out in the back of him there. So we're not too sure what on earth happened to Ria Haryanto, whether he got contact from anybody else. No, he just couldn't find a way to get round Danny Kvyat's stricken car, just go straight into the back of him. And there we go, Ria Haryanto out of today's race. It looks like my teammate Daniel Ricciardo also got caught up in the wars through turn 4. He's having to make an early pit stop in today's race, and that's going to move me up into P7 as well. As we're still trying to hunt down Esteban Gutierrez at this stage of the race. We're watching a little pack in the midfield at the moment, going for a bit of a battle here on lap 5. And no, it's a yellow flag as Pascal Wehrlein has had engine failures here at the Hungarian Grand Prix. It's going to be 0 points for the Manor team at today's race, with Ria Haryanto, of course, going into the back of Danny Kvyat earlier on in the race. And now, unfortunately, for Pascal Wehrlein having that engine failure, he will also be retiring, as well as Esteban Gutierrez comes into the pit lane here on lap 5. And that's going to bump me up into P6 as we are working our way into some decent points for today's race. But we just need to try and make sure we stay ahead of Sergio Perez. If we can score more points than Sergio Perez, that will be a huge boost for our championship this season, as there's another driver into the pits. It's Fernando Alonso, and we move up into P5 now. So slowly but surely making our way through the field as we now are being put under pressure from Jolyon Palmer in that Renault car as we go in through the final corner, taking a wider entry to sort of maximize the exit off that corner, because we are very slow in a straight line in this Red Bull car. Complete polar opposite to what we had last season in the 14 years. We get bumped up into P2 as drivers come into the pits, go side by side with Jolyon Palmer on the exit of turn 1. Oh, he squeezes us out wide there. There was a little bit of contact between the two tyres. Unfortunately, we then get a legal overtake on Jolyon Palmer. We have to give him the position back, but we dive it back up the inside, down in towards turn 2. And there we go, getting the position back from Jolyon Palmer and moving up into second place once again this Hungarian Grand Prix as we come in towards the final couple of corners. Now I think Lewis Hamilton is finally pitting in today's race. So he's taken those super soft tyres quite a long way, all the way up to lap 8 in this Hungarian Grand Prix. Is anybody going to come into the pits behind us? Not quite, so we are going to be put under pressure once again from Jolyon Palmer, as we've got Lewis Hamilton coming into the pit lane now, and that should put us up into the lead of today's race. But Jolyon Palmer doing his best to try and take it away from us. Of course, we were teammates back in Season 1 and Season 2, but Jolyon Palmer staying behind us for the time being, and we will hold on to the lead of this race, as it looks like there's a yellow flag. Someone's had a problem, and that is Jenson Button having a tyre puncture very, very early on in today's race. He's only just gone onto those medium tyres, so it looks like something has happened. There's been a problem there for the McLaren team, a failure on the car to get a puncture for some strange reason, and unfortunately he's going to be put way down to the back of the field. We're now under pressure from the other Mercedes of Nico Rosberg, who takes the lead of the Hungarian Grand Prix. He's going to on a slightly different strategy compared to everybody else. He's starting on the medium tyres. I think then he's pitting for the softs and then going for a set of super softs right at the end of today's race. But we get back at Nico Rosberg and we move back up into the lead of the race. However, that has put Sergio Perez, our championship rival, right on our tail, and he has already made a pit stop, so it is vital that we keep this guy behind us across the rest of this race. Just try and hold him up as much as we possibly can as he tries to look around the outside in towards that corner, but unfortunately locks up his front left tyre. And that allows Nico Rosberg to get the position back on him. And that gives us a little bit of a safety buffer to Sergio Perez as we go into towards the start-finish straight once again. This is where the AI has the best opportunity to try and overtake us. As Nico Rosberg right on my tail once again. He's going to be using Slipstream and DRS to his advantage down in towards turn 1. But there we go. He's going around the outside. Looks like he locked up his front right tyre. That is not going to help him at all. And there we go. Holding on to the lead of the race still. But Nico Rosberg very much on my tail still, and it looks like he's actually been overtaken by Sergio Perez once again, but I think, yes, we are coming into the pits for our first and only pit stop in today's race, and that is going to allow Sergio Perez to shoot off into the distance. Unfortunately, he has somehow managed to get himself into lead the race, I guess because of Jenson Button's puncher earlier on in the race, which is really unfortunate because that allows Sergio Perez to move up into the lead of the race. But we will see what we can do trying to hold him up. But look at that pit stop, 1.8 seconds there from the Red Bull team. So lightning quick from the pit crew there to get me in and out and on a fresh set of tyres ahead of Nico Rosberg and ahead of Romain Grosjean as well. And we only come out in P12, which is not too bad indeed, behind the Sauber of Marcus Ericsson, and it shouldn't take too long for us to catch up to this guy because, of course, we are at least faster than the Sauber in this game. So hopefully we can catch up to him and see what we can do in today's race, as the gap looks like it may have got a little bit further apart. It looks like Ericsson may have increased the gap over us, but he is on the super soft tyres as there's a couple of drivers coming into the pit lane, and that is going to move us up into P7. But like I said, Ericsson currently on the super soft tyres, so he is going to be quicker at the moment, but those tyres are going to degrade very quickly, and there we go, proving exactly what I said there. Ericsson going very slowly on this set of super soft tyres, and we are right on his tail at the moment, hunting down the Sauber driver for P6 in today's race. We take a nice wide line in towards the final corner, maximize our exit, put ourselves right on the gearbox of Marcus Ericsson, using our DRS, using our slipstream, and there we go, moving up into P6, but also coming under pressure from both Nico Rosberg and Romain Grosjean as we go down in towards turn 1. We take a nice line up the inside, and there we go, holding on to P6. A little wiggle there as we lose the back end, but it's not too much of a problem for us at this stage of the race. And there we go, holding on to P6 on lap 19 of this race, over the halfway stage at the moment. And we'll just be hoping to try and hold on to position as much as we possibly can as Nico Rosberg goes for an overtake once again. He moves up into P5 now. A little bit of a tie bang between the two of us, but not too much contact. We force him out wide, but we do give him just enough room on the circuits there. And there we go, holding on to P5 with Jolyon Palmer, the next driver up the road. But I believe he still has one more pit stop to make in today's races. Nico Rosberg is not giving up here today, and he's actually got caught onto the back of my car going down in towards turn 1 now, side by side between myself and Romain Grosjean, but Romain Grosjean braking very, very early into that corner. Nico Rosberg doing a lovely switchback move on us to go in towards P5. We'll have a little look up the inside in towards turn 2, side by side with Nico Rosberg, but we're still going to be side by side as we go in towards turn 3, which is not a good idea. And there we go, having to give up the position and losing the back end massively out of exit of that corner, and that unfortunately loses me position to Romain Grosjean as well as I get demoted down in towards P7. So it looks like I'm struggling quite a bit on these medium tyres, and that was actually developed quite a bit over the end of this race. Just struggling with the grip on the medium tyres. They just really struggled to heat up and get the temperature in the tyres, which unfortunately was a big problem for us. And as you can see, running it very, very wide as we go through the S's section. We're not particularly quick on this circuit anyway, but we cannot afford for things to go wrong. So we've got a Ferrari of Sebastian Vettel right on my tail, and then of course it is Daniel Ricciardo. If Daniel Ricciardo gets behind us, we will let him straight through. He's my teammate, he's on a different strategy, so there is no point in holding up Daniel Ricciardo as we go through the final couple of corners here on lap 22. Sebastian Vettel pulls into the pit lane, so here we go. We're just going to pull over to one side of the track and just allow Daniel Ricciardo to get through. There we go, not even putting up a fight on my teammate, but I will be putting up a fight on Kimi Räikkönen. I'm not letting the Ferrari driver through. It's enough to let my teammate through, but I will definitely not let Kimi Räikkönen through on this race as we are here on still on lap 22 of this Hungarian Grand Prix, getting nearer and nearer to the end of the race, and we are still in the points at the moment, which is really, really good news. But there goes Kimi Räikkönen, much faster than us on those soft tyres. We go up the inside, down in towards turn 1, and it looks like we managed to hold on to the position, but running it wide on the exit, that may allow Valtteri Bottas to have a run at us down in towards turn 2, but unfortunately for him, that was not the case. We cut ahead to lap 24 now, and Valtteri Bottas right on my tail. He goes to the right-hand side, so does Kimi Räikkönen, and unfortunately, I'm not able to move over to that right-hand side, take the inside line, as I usually do, and there is Sergio Perez as well, comes out ahead of me as I get squeezed out wide by Kimi Räikkönen. A few little tyre bangs between the two of us. Kevin Magnussen now going around the outside in towards turn 2. I'm not giving up the position on him as I still want to be in the points in today's race. There we go, squeeze him out, but he goes up the inside in towards turn 3 and just sort of squeezes himself up the inside, not giving me any room at all through there. But luckily we are able to hold on to the position, loosen the back end massively out of turn 4, and that is what it means. The tyres just struggling to grip around this circuit. It's not because of tyre wear. Our tyre wear isn't too bad. They're about 19 or 20% worn at this stage of the race, but unfortunately just still really, really struggling with the tyre wear as we cut ahead one lap later to lap 25. Still under pressure from Kevin Magnussen at this stage of the race. Losing the back end once again as we go through the S's section. Oh, there's contact between myself and Kevin Magnussen. Unfortunately, the Renault driver coming worse off out of that collision, and he's been put into a spin. Not my fault and not Kevin Magnussen's fault either. I just lost the back end through the previous corner, and unfortunately Kevin Magnussen saw an opportunity, went for the move, and as I was still trying to correct the rear end on my car, unfortunately Kevin Magnussen just got taken out. Hopefully we get a replay of exactly what happened, just to sort of get an idea of what it was like on board with Kevin Magnussen. He is still running in this race, which is at least a bit of a positive from that, but unfortunately for him, he has lost out so much time as Felipe Nasr goes for the overtake on the left-hand side. Still in the points at the moment as we overtake Daniel Ricciardo coming out of the pit lane there. Going up the inside of Felipe Nasr and Massa, both the Brazilian drivers. And there we go, holding on to P8, being very, very aggressive at this stage of the race because I want to hold on to these points. I know that these points are going to be very, very vital as we go across the rest of this season, especially with Sergio Perez being so far out in the lead. And here is a replay on board with Kevin Magnussen. So there we go, losing the back end. He has a little look up the inside, backs out of it as he sees that we are making a mistake. And unfortunately, it was just too late. A little bit of front left to rear right tyre contact. Unfortunately for Kevin Magnussen, that was enough to put him in a spin. Disappointing there for the Renault driver, but no doubt he will carry on and try and get the best possible results. We are under pressure once again from Valtteri Bottas, Felipe Massa and Felipe Nasr and Esteban Gutierrez as well. But once again, diving up the inside in towards turn 1, locking up our front tyres there, but still managing to make our way through and just about staying ahead of both those drivers. It looks like both Brazilians now have finally come into the pits, which will sort of take a bit of pressure off us as Esteban Gutierrez there just goes straight into the back of us. What are you doing? Down in towards turn 1, side by side once again with Gutierrez. We're going to squeeze him out as much as we possibly can on the exit of turn 1. We're just trying to hold on to this position for as long as we can in this race. If we can do that, then that could be some great points for us, especially if the front runners still have to make a pit stop. I mean, some of them still have to go on at least medium or soft tyres, but that is a mistake through turn 3. Running it wide, that allows Gutierrez to get past us, Palmer to get past us, going, oh, they're straight into the back of Jolyon Palmer. Very lucky not to get any damage as we go through turn 4. As you can see, once again, really, really struggling with the tyre wear on this car. And now I've got Daniel Ricciardo right on my tail. And like we were doing earlier in the race, we are going to let my teammate through because he is on a different strategy. We still want to get as many points as we possibly can for the team. Yes, we may not be able to catch up to Sergio Perez in the championship, but we still got a great chance of taking home the Constructors' Championship at the end of the season because Nico Hülkenberg has not had the best couple of races recently. And as we are talking about Nico Hülkenberg, guess who is right on my tail? Ricciardo makes a mistake there, locking up his tyres as we go and let him through. So I guess I'll take that position back. I will let him back through as we go down the start-finish straight. But Nico Hülkenberg is the guy that I want to keep behind me for as long as we possibly can. We don't have to worry about him at the moment as he comes into the pits. And Ricciardo, what are you doing? I'm letting you through there. There is no need to push me wide. We're going to go for defensive on Kimi Räikkönen. Move over to the right-hand side. Bottas comes out of the pits. There's a huge amount of contact down in towards turn 1. We are out of the Hungarian Grand Prix. We just did not realise that Valtteri Bottas was going to come out of the pit lane at that stage of the race. Our eyes were too focused on Kimi Räikkönen behind us. Here we go, having a replay of what exactly happened there. So it's actually Sebastian Vettel on our tail. He goes for the overtake down in towards turn 1. We move over to the right-hand side, go very defensive, too defensive at the end of the day, and you always run that risk if you cross that white line. And there was Valtteri Bottas. We managed to avoid the Williams driver, but because Sebastian Vettel was so close to us on the left-hand side, their contact was just inevitable, and unfortunately we are out of today's Hungarian Grand Prix. A hugely disappointing race here at the Hungarian Grand Prix. We would have loved to have scored points here today, especially at a circuit which I don't tend to do well at. But unfortunately, losing out on a lot of points to Sergio Perez there, and of course Nico Hülkenberg as well. So not only losing out in the Drivers' Championship, but losing out in the Constructors' Championship as well, which is really, really not good. I mean, it just caught me by surprise there, Valtteri Bottas coming out the pit lane. There was nothing I could do. Once I was already committed going that much defensive to Sebastian Vettel, there was nothing I could do to get out of that. And unfortunately, it was always going to be a crash either with Sebastian Vettel or with Valtteri Bottas. Unfortunately for Vettel, we picked him instead of Bottas and put both of us out of today's race. But Fernando Alonso is today's race winner, with Sergio Perez in second, Lewis Hamilton third, and Romain Grosjean finished today's race in fourth, with Nico Rosberg, the other Mercedes, finishing in fifth. My teammate Daniel Ricciardo gets 8 points for the team here today, finishing in sixth, with Kimi Räikkönen seventh, Valtteri Bottas eighth, and Nico Hülkenberg getting ninth, with Esteban Gutierrez getting the final championship point here today. Jenson Button recovered from his puncture earlier on in the race, but only enough to just miss out on the points here today, as he finished in P11 with Felipe Massa in 12th, Kevin Magnussen 13th, Marcus Ericsson in 14th, with Jolyon Palmer 15th, Felipe Nasr in 16th, and then you have the guys who, no, actually, Sebastian Vettel did manage to finish in today's race. We didn't completely take him out of the race, but he finished down in 17th place. We may well have taken him out of the race, because it's not really any points scored, and that is going to be a very, very disappointing result for the German. Carlos Sainz finished in 18th after having that crash very early on lap 2. Myself being the first of the guys who did not finish in P19, with Pascal Wehrlein, Rio Haryanto, and Danny Kvyat also not finishing in today's race. Taking a look at the Drivers' Championship then, after 11 rounds of Season 5, and Sergio Perez is absolutely running away with the championship. He has an 82-point gap over myself at this stage of the season, which is really frustrating. I doubt I'll be able to catch up to that, so we're thinking about maybe ceasing research and development on this car, and then doing it all for Season 6, and hopefully trying to get a good car for that season, then try and challenge for the championship in Season 6. We just have to wait and see how the rest of the season goes, because of course we get that choice at the Singapore Grand Prix. But we are now very close in a battle with Fernando Alonso, who is only 5 points behind us in the championship. So hopefully we can at least hold on to P2. Constructors' Championship then, and Sahara Force India increased their lead over us, but the gap is only 65 points at this stage of the season. So there is still a huge chance for us to be able to catch up to Force India come the end of the season. There's only a 65-point gap, so I mean, it's not too difficult. 2 good races from both myself and Daniel Ricciardo, and we will be right on their tails. But we also have McLaren Honda not too far behind us either. There's only a 15-point gap between our two teams. So it looks like the battle between the two constructors is going to continue over the course of the rest of the season. But hopefully we can shake off McLaren Honda and start to attack Force India a little bit more. But that is it for today's Hungarian Grand Prix. If you have enjoyed the episode, don't forget to smash a like on today's video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so for daily Formula 1 content. And don't forget to share this video with your friends. But I'll see you next time at the German Grand Prix. But until then, it's goodbye from me.